Hey guys, it's Cam 315 back on Cam 315 Talk Sports, and we are here with our NBA video discussing the first round, the entirety of the first round games. And we're going to talk about the second round and give our predictions. Now, as of this recording, two of the games had already taken place, which were the Warriors and Grizzlies and the Bucks versus the Celtics. We'll give our, I guess, quick game analysis on those and where those series could be going. We'll still give our predictions for those series, but I definitely think mostly in the case of the Bucks versus Celtics, my opinion might or my I guess you could say my choice might be changing just based on the outcome of today's game. But then again, it's only one game, so we'll just have to see what happens next in game two. But we'll start off with the first round recaps. We won't go too much in depth with them, but we'll just give our own personal thoughts. So I guess we can start off with the Western Conference side of things. You had the number one seeded Phoenix Suns taking on the number one eighth seeded or ninth seeded, however you want to say it, whatever, the New Orleans Pelicans. And this game actually went about 6 games, I believe.
6 games. 6 games.
I will say this: give credit. I give credit where credit is due to the Pelicans. They made the Suns work to beat them, and I think it was a coming out party for Brandon Ingram, and I think it was his first playoff appearance. He was pretty good. Honestly, he was kind of that one player that nobody on the Suns really could stop or slow down. So I give credit where credit's due there. Jose Alvarado, he was just, I think it was a breakout series for him just from what he did, especially in that game. I think it was game 4. Game 4, they just had a really good win. It's too bad they, went back to Phoenix and they couldn't pull through. Regardless, I thought CJ McCollum, he was solid for the most part. Overall, in terms of the Pelicans, I thought the rebounding was actually shockingly pretty good. They had pretty much out rebounded the Suns, and they made sure to grab the boards. But I like where the Pelicans are going to be going. It seems like they definitely have a bright future with a bunch of young talent there. The only thing right there missing in the puzzle piece is this whole Zion Williamson element. If he can stay healthy and whatever's going on there. We'll see. I think, this series could have went potentially 7 games, maybe if Zion was playing, especially with the element of Devin Booker being out. But again, like I said, we'll have to see what they do. But in terms of my thoughts on the Suns of what they did, it looked like it was going to get dicey for them, especially when Devin Booker went out. And I actually thought there could be a potential upset here. But the thing is, Chris Paul in game 1, he took over in game 1, and then Justin, the most recent game in game 6, he took over too to send the Pelicans home. Pretty much, the thing is, I think personally, just coming in the series, we'll talk about the Dallas series they have upcoming, but I definitely do think the role players, they were okay, but the other role players needed to show up for the Suns. It's kind of just Chris Paul putting the team on his back. But the only thing is timetable will, I guess, come out for whenever Devin Booker comes back. Maybe he comes back maybe tomorrow. I don't think he is, or maybe game 2. We'll just have to see. But I thought it was a good series win for the Suns, as much as I freaking hate their guts right now, but it is what it is.
Yeah, well, I've been calling them young Thundercats, I think, but the Pelicans, they actually did play well. Brandon Ingram is a difficult player to stop because of his height, his length, and what he can do with the basketball once it's in his possession. Coupled in with the fact that CJ McCollum, age veteran, who's been there before, pretty much can lead these guys. And that's when it all started for the Pelicans, when they got McCollum. McCollum really turned things around for this franchise and these players that's on this roster. How they incorporate Zion moving forward, I think he's going to be up for a contract after this basketball season, so we'll see how that goes in. But yeah, just to, not to ramble on too long, eventually the Suns, they became who they were last year. I don't think moving forward that I think Booker will be back. How the hamstring deals, the hamstring moving forward is going to be a problem as it relates to the competition getting better. But for right now, they did do what they were supposed to do. They took them out in 6. They took on these young Thundercats, and they were probably kind of shocked that, these guys, they played the way they were. So Monty Williams pretty much just, buckle down, got the guys to buckle down, play a little bit more physical defense, and allow his best player to catapult them into the second round. So we got Phoenix moving forward. They were supposed to win this series, not in 6. As we thought. They thought, I think we talked about a sweep, maybe 5 games.
Yeah.
But they're moving forward, and we'll see how the Booker injury affects them in the next round.
Yeah. Next round, the next game the next series, I guess you said, in Western Conference, was the Jazz and Dallas Mavericks. And this was the series where it's kind of a make it or break it type of series for the Jazz. We don't know what the hell the future of the Utah Jazz are going to be. I think they might look to potentially get rid of Rudy Gobert because they see him as a scapegoat for the freaking issues that happened last year against the Clippers. And then I guess, as a way to say, oh, he didn't do much of anything when his other perimeter players can't guard a toothpick, for crying out loud. Right. Essentially, they shockingly lost the first game. Or no, did they win the first game?
Utah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe they did.
I know I think they did.
They won the first game, and then, Jalen Brunson just went silly stupid for the next 2. Yeah. They just couldn't do anything with him. But again, not to sit up here and, go too far on this. This series was boring. It really was. Watching Utah was boring. All they did was ISO on offense. ISO, 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 ISO. The only time they, for the most part, didn't isolate is when Mitchell wasn't in the game. But even then, they did some form of isolation. There's no structure whatsoever, it seems to be, to their offense. It's usually the guy that dribbles the ball up the floor. That's the one who does something with the basketball. And even defensively, it's still the same stuff, So I think they're ready for a rebuild in Utah. So, they're making Gobert to be the scapegoat. But what Utah needs is an injection of, I would like to say it's the coach, because he's had that team for quite a while, and it doesn't seem like it's going to get any better. They could use an injection of, probably a different philosophy on offense. But all in all, yeah, man. And then on top of that, once Luka came back, man, it was really, they couldn't beat the Mavericks with a top 5 player on the roster, man. Then once Luka came back, it was a foregone conclusion the Mavericks was going to win this series. So I wasn't shocked too busy. I'm shocked they got 2. Honestly, I really am. I'm shocked they got 2. So Dallas move on, thank you goodness. And these teams that run these isolation offenses, I'm glad they're gone, because it's horrible to watch. It really is. It just does not do basketball any justice to watch this type of, the word is movement, because there really is none in Utah. It's one guy brings it up. If he passes it, he'll pass it to one guy, and then that one guy shakes off the ball for 2, 3, 4, shakes off the shot clock, and then next thing you know, he gets a shot up. Utah, boring basketball, this isolation stuff, and that's what happened to the Nets too. Isolation offenses. It's no good. It really isn't good for the game. Glad to see them gone. Bye, Utah.
Yeah. Just before we move on to the next series, Jalen Brunson, his outbreak was just insane. Further elementing that this dude will more than likely try to look to get a big contract because after this year, he's a free agent. Well, only time will tell if Dallas will be willing to pay him that money. We'll see. They clearly offered him and he turned it down because he felt like, he's a better player than what he is. Another player that kind of showed up on Dallas was, I think, either Dorian Finney-Smith or Maxi Kleba. They were both good.
Yeah, it was Finney-Smith. But at the same time, Dallas moves the ball around. I mean, not granted, sometimes they do isolate the top of the key when Luka comes in, but they do rotate the ball in some form of offense. Some form of offense to get that ball moving, get the bodies moving so that you can actually see that the ball is free flowing, the bodies are free flowing, so move the basketball around, but yeah, I think Jalen Brunson, hopefully he re-signs with Dallas. I mean, hopefully he re-signs. Oh yeah, hopefully he re-signs with Dallas because the contracts in the NBA, especially for these role players, they can get quite ridiculous giving a role player, that kind of money, because I'm pretty sure he now thinks or believes he can be, a number 1 or number 2 guy in this league. And sorry, Jalen, no, you're not there, not in my eyes. So, so hopefully he re-signs with Dallas, to keep that continuity on their team alive so that they can, move forward. But we'll see. But
Yep. So Dallas moves on to the second round for the first time in quite a while. This is Luka's first time going to be in the semifinals because the Clippers always stopped him from doing that. Now I have to watch this guy in the second round. Two of my most hated teams in the Western Conference I have to deal with and watch them. But whatever. Next matchup was the
Clippers, man. Don't get me started on your Clippers.
The next matchup was the Warriors and the Nuggets, and this was pretty much a gentleman's sweep. Like, there was really, truly in the first 2 games, the Nuggets were just far outmatched. Like, it wasn't even a contest in the first 2 games. Now, they made it a good contest in game 3, but the Warriors just took over and pulled away. And then in game 4, Denver, tried to they made a triumphant, win there. They tried to make something interesting, but everybody knew the moment they get back to Golden State, it was game, match, set, and done. Pretty much Golden State had their way with Denver all series. But the most shocking thing that I think we probably didn't see coming was within the first 3 games or first 2 games, really. Jordan Poole had insane breakout games where the dude was dropping dang near 30 points. I didn't see that before. I was like, I know this guy was good, but I was like, geez Louise, you pretty much got a third splash brother right there. Listen, all I gotta say is I guess credit to Denver for somewhat making it interesting in the last 2 in the game 3 and 4, but Warriors, they look like they're going to go to the conference finals this year because it seems like they're back on top. But there's pretty much no takeaways. They were out Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. I think Denver has a good future. Only time will tell to see if they can fully bring it together. But I have nothing else to say on this series, to be honest.
Yeah, gentleman's sweep. We kind of knew that it was going to be like that. But at the same time, this is who Denver is, man. Denver goes down swinging. And this series was no different. They at home for games 1 and 2. Jordan Poole, I mean, he pretty much had his breakout games, but when they went back to Denver, it wasn't as easy on the road as it was at home for Jordan Poole. So they did, win the game 3. So they just and the thing is to keep don't make any changes until you lose. And that's what Golden State did. They didn't make any changes to the roster. Although we knew at some point Steph Curry was going to break into that starting lineup. So, and when they lost game 4, that was the thing where it's okay. All right, well, Jordan, it was nice, but yeah, you got to go back to the bench, So they were thinking, okay, well, how are we going to incorporate Curry back into the lineup, thus keeping Poole? So everyone was having their things of who should start, who should come off the bench, who should, things of that nature. So, yeah, they did come back with Curry in game 5, and yeah, Curry, now Curry's my favorite player. I mean, I make no bones about it. Steph Curry is that dude for me. And he was the one who pretty much put the Nuggets away. I mean, they couldn't do anything with him. Jokic got in foul trouble that game 5. And when they realized it, they kept going at him. But, it was a hard fault because the Nuggets, I don't care who they play, man. Michael Malone has these guys swinging. They don't back down from anybody. So it's going to be interesting to see how they, but it's always some type of injury with the Nuggets. This year happened to be Murray and Porter Jr. So let's see what the Nuggets can do. And this is what people have been saying for years about the Nuggets. Let's see what they can do when they're healthy. It's just that for whatever reason, they are just never fully healthy. So we'll see next year. But if the Nuggets are fully healthy, man, we're talking about a number 1 seeded team in the NBA, let alone the Western Conference. These guys are that good under Michael Malone. So let's just, and I like watching the Nuggets too, because they play really good basketball. So they just got a tough draw against the Warriors, so that the Warriors move on. And let's see what they do. Because I'm really excited to see the Warriors.
Yeah. Next series and the last one was probably the best series out of all the Western Conference first round matchups, and that was the Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, we thought this series was going to go 7 games. It almost went 7 games if Minnesota showed up in the last game and they actually did something. And funny enough, Minnesota, in all honesty, probably should have won this series. There were like multiple games in this series. They were up big, and they all blew those leads. Game 3, they had a big lead. They were up I think by 20 plus, and they let
26.
Memphis. Oh, no.
26. They were up 26, and the bottom fell out.
Yep. And they played really stupid basketball by just chucking threes up. And it ended up costing them. They got the game in game 4, the revenge game. But I always felt like that game 3 loss was the type of loss that haunts them, where it affects their mentality the rest of the series. They go back to Memphis. Memphis ends up beating them. And then, okay, game 6, do or die game. And, well, they were up. They had a lead going into the 4th, and they blew that lead. And game, set, match. Karl Anthony Towns, he was not impressive in this series. He was pretty much getting outscored a majority of the time in this series. Like, his closeout game, he only had 10 points. Like, you're supposed to be one of the best players on your team. He didn't do anything. Deangelo Russell, he had a freaking complete fall down to earth since the playing game against the Clippers, which goes to show that those one-hit wonder playing games don't mean nothing when it comes to a 7-game series. Dude was off. Anthony Edwards was probably literally their only consistent scorer. Now, I was honestly debating early on in the series because he was always getting hurt or something like that. He had even a freaking Paul Pierce moment when he had his leg and then he had to be carried off and stuff like that, and then got brought back and was fine. I thought Patrick Beverly, I thought he played solid, but I don't think it was just enough. The Memphis Grizzlies just had more firepower. John Morant, when it was time for him to show up, he showed up late in the games. Now, overall in the series, he wasn't as impressive, but when they called his name, he did it. He did his job. Desmond Bane was actually really good too in this series. And one more can you ask from the freaking Memphis Grizzlies? They pulled out a series that I expected them to win, but they actually won a game earlier. But hey, they're moving on. I liked what I saw. As for the Timberwolves, they got a young, nice team. It's just I really don't know. You know, I feel like this is like their ceiling, unless they can add like another like unless they can find some way to lure somebody to Minnesota. I don't see why somebody would want to go there, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, the NBA playoffs, it always brings out your strengths and your weaknesses. It always does. You can have the most fantastic season individually or as a team, but once the playoffs arrives, these young teams get their indoctrination into how the playoffs are. These games are hard fought. And I tell people all the time, the NBA is really watered down during the regular season. But when the playoffs hit, it will be the best basketball you will ever see. I say, so don't make any mistake about it. The NBA is the best basketball a person will ever see during the playoffs. And this series highlighted that statement more so than anything. And the Minnesota Timberwolves, they now know what it takes to win a playoff series. Now, what they do with their roster moving forward, we can all speculate as to how they're going to make changes, make additions. But each one of these players, they now know, dude, the NBA playoffs is something special, and we got to bring a special kind of play to be able to move forward and beat teams if we want to become championship contenders. And even the Grizzlies had to figure that out too, because when they got hit in the mouth the first game, they were just like, oh, wow, these dudes ain't even been here. And they, so let's amp it up the game too, So, but to close, I'm gonna say, man, there ain't a cat in the league like Ja Morant. Man, this dude is so special. It's just, man, I get goosebumps as a basketball fan when I talk about Ja Morant. This cat is special. I mean, man, and even the first game of this first game against the Warriors, you see just how special this cat is. Memphis got them, Memphis got them that dude. They got that dude on that roster. And I mean, they need to make sure that they keep players around him, because this dude is what he's a franchise player. Make no mistake about it. This dude is special. And the Grizzlies showed that, and they continuing to show that. And I mean, I love watching this dude play. Special, man, just absolutely special. Ja Morant ain't a dude. Nobody in the NBA has got a cat like Morant. Nobody. Yeah. So they move on. They play the Warriors. We'll talk about that in a second. But it was a really good series. But now Minnesota does happen. I think they do happen to know what they need to move forward in the playoff series. Get these young Thundercats some veterans that can show them, how to approach the game and things of that nature. Yeah, take that young energy that you all have and focus it in the right direction. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to watching both of these teams play. Moving.
Yeah.
Nobody like Morant.
Yeah. One more thing. The one good thing about Minnesota being eliminated is we don't have to see no more fans somehow protesting on the court anymore. Good God. I'm getting sick of it.
Yeah, come on, man. It doesn't really, and I know we're getting off the subject, but for me, it really does not really show that the importance behind your cause. It really doesn't. I mean, there are ways to get your method, your message across, but jumping out doing a nationally televised sporting event, whether it be baseball, basketball, football, it just does not show, any importance to your causes, what you're trying to relate to the public. It don't. It's just, it doesn't. Because nobody really talks about it. All they're going to talk about is, like in this particular case, security guard to tackle the person. That's it.
Yeah.
Your cause does not get across. So, I would say find other ways, more positive ways to get your message across to the American people, as opposed to, using a sporting event as your venue to take these actions.
Yeah. Going into the Eastern Conference playoffs. First series was Hawks versus Heat. It's kind of the same thing. Like,
not gonna talk about the Bulls Bucks first. Let's get them out the way. Let's get it out the way. Don't wait till last.
I'm not gonna wait till last. They're going second.
All right. Heat Hawks. Come
on. It was pretty much like the Warriors Nuggets series. It was just a gentleman's sweep. The Heat had their way with the Atlanta Hawks the entire way. Now in Game 3, the Hawks made it interesting. Trae Young came alive for like his one and only game, but after that, the Heat just made sure, we're not gonna make you have that heroic run you had last year where you think you got a chance and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, I gotta give credit where credit's due. Freaking Miami has these no-name players I never heard of, like Gabe Vincent. Max Strus. These guys have developed into nice NBA players. So I'll give credit. Jimmy Butler, he actually played really good. Everybody else on the Heat played solid. As for the Hawks, Trae Young was definitely not like last year's Trae Young in the playoffs. But then again, it's like when you play the Knicks and then the Knicks and then the 76ers that like to choke games away for free. Of course, you're going to make and look good, but they had this guy in prison. This dude was, honest to God, terrible the entire series. There was like games he was like 3 of 11 or 3 of 15, something like that. My thing with the Hawks is they need to give this guy like another superstar caliber player to play alongside him. For the Hawks to be especially prosperous and successful where the Eastern Conference is going in the future, because the Eastern Conference is actually getting a lot better. And remind you, and again, these guys only got to this point because they were in the play-in game. So if there was no play-in, they wouldn't have not even made the playoffs to begin with. So I think the Hawks have a lot of work they need to do. I don't know what the whole John Collins situation is, because it's like he's kind of like 1 foot in, but 1 foot out the door. I don't know what's going on there.
And then he was hurt and he came back. And I think they threw him in because they got so desperate because they were playing just that badly that, they had to do something, But the Hawks, man, it was a one-man show for the Hawks. I mean, if Trae Young is not setting up, if Trae Young is not setting up guys, then, they're not winning. And they took Trae Young away. And Trae Young had the one good game, which I believe was Game 3, if I'm correct, or Game 4. No, it was Game 4. But after that, I mean, Miami's depth, pretty much tore away at everything the Hawks were. So, gentlemen sweeping. If you got one really good player, that one really good player can get you one win in the playoff series. And that was no different here.
That's pretty much the thing there. Moving on to Bucks versus Bulls.
No, if you're gonna go last, go last. Let's go Sixers, Raptors, and let's just
we'll go Bulls versus Bucks. It's
gonna be really quick.
Did the series go 6 games?
Really?
I don't
No,
know.
it didn't go 6 games.
No. Okay. 5 games. Gentlemen sweep. My thoughts on this series. I thought the Bulls could have made this series a lot interesting if they had won game 1, but DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Vujovic didn't show up that game. Now, they played a much better inspired game 2. In all honesty, the Bulls should have been up 2-0 in this series, but then when it shifted to Chicago, Milwaukee, especially with the fact that they lost Chris Middleton, Milwaukee just turned it on another gear, and they just absolutely just dominated. Mind you, the Bulls also deserve to lose if you're letting Grayson Allen drop 27 points in one freaking game.
Without even dribbling.
Yeah.
The dude wasn't even putting the ball down on the floor. Bobby Portis wasn't even putting the ball on the floor. This defense was horrific. It was horrific. And just like I said before, the playoffs always bring out your strengths and weaknesses. And now everyone knows exactly why LaVine and DeMar DeRozan are not number 1 guys. They're number 2 guys because the Milwaukee Bucks took away the middle of the floor from where these guys like to work. And they have all essentially played a zone defense for games 3 through 5. A zone defense for games 3 through 5. And Billy Donovan did not make the adjustments to attack said 2-1-2 zone. I mean, it was horrific to watch. I mean, they lost by 30. I think it was 30 in game 3 and 26 in game 4. And I think they lost by another 20 points in game 5. They got absolutely dominated. And they woke up a sleeping giant. And here it is. Here it is after that game 2 win and that game 1 performance. You know, everyone kept saying, listen, hey man, these Bulls, they coming home. So, you know, just like, and me, even, and your uncle, and even you, we were saying, listen, after a road team wins, that's when it becomes a series. Now, the Bucks knew that. The Bulls, for whatever reason, that fell on deaf ears because that game 3, man, they got smoked. They got smoked. And just to show it wasn't a fluke, in game 4, they got smoked again. The same way. Antetokounmpo is putting the ball. He's not even putting the ball on the floor, man. He's not even putting the ball. And I'm sorry, I'm venting. But you knew this was going to happen. They're not even putting the ball on the floor. And Grayson Allen, in 2 games at the United Center, scored 49 points. 49 points. And I think if our math is incorrect, he scored 49 points and he only missed 5 shots. Ridiculous. In the playoffs. Grayson Allen? Really? Grayson Allen. Come on, man. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. That defense was horrible. If you have a number 1 guy, DeMar DeRozan, then that is the guy who's supposed to step up and lead your team to victories. Giannis did it. Butler did it. Why can't DeMar DeRozan? I'll tell you why. He is not a number 1 guy. He is not. And to give LaVine potentially $35 to $40 million a year is very risky for the future of the Chicago Bulls. So be mindful. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the Bulls' future is going to be like. I definitely do think they need to make a lot of moves if they want to be a contender in the Eastern Conference. But the Bucks move on. Right now, you'll see a quick cut, guys, because I have to create a new Zoom room because apparently we have a remaining time meter. I don't know what's going on. This didn't happen last time, but we'll be back real quick. So till then, we'll see you in this quick cut. So till then, guys. Okay, back. So next series after Bulls Bucks was Raptors versus Sixers, and I'll give credit where credit's due. The Raptors, I thought were going to pull off history because
I thought the Raptors was going to win this series too. We both said it. We thought the Raptors was going to win this series.
yeah.
So now, granted, it didn't really shock me that the Sixers won. It really didn't, but everything coupled in with how Nick Nurse coaches, how Doc Rivers coaches, that was a factor. Obviously, James Harden is a factor. Embiid is a factor. My thinking was just like, hey, eventually, he gonna get hurt, which he eventually did, but they closed him out first. Harden is going to do something on defense. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry. Harden is going to do nothing on defense, and the Raptors collectively as a unit is going, to win this series. So yeah, I get what we were thinking, but we both picked the Raptors to win this series.
Yeah, they almost did the impossible, but I'm guessing Doc Rivers complaining to the media about his blown leads and using that as excuses was a way to fuel the team. But that's another story for another day. We'll talk here.
You stop it with the Doc Rivers hate. He is in Philadelphia now. He's not with the Clippers. You just upset because he in the playoffs and the Clippers aren't.
I'm not.
That's all it is.
I'm not. I just like to see this man's downfall. And if this guy lost,
my goodness gracious,
this guy lost a 3-0 lead, I would have been throwing a party up in here, showing him.
Whatever. Leave it alone. However, I will tell you, just like I said before, I mean, Doc Rivers, for me, is still the best coach when it turns out he has to draw up a play out of a timeout. When Embiid hit that game, when the only thing I can say is, Doc, he did it again. Doc has done it again. Drew up another play to get a wide open shot. Now, whether the player hits a shot is irrelevant. He got a wide open three for his best player. Doc drew it up. Still, best coach in the league when it comes to drawing up a play out of a timeout. But, I digress. You just upset that the Clippers aren't in the playoffs with your beloved Tyronn Lue, and Doc is still rolling. Doc's still rolling. So let's go ahead and hear this expert analysis on the Philadelphia 76ers and why they are proceeding to the second round with Doc Rivers, and the Clippers are at home watching Doc Rivers proceed to the second round.
Well, my only rebuttal to that statement was Doc Rivers was watching Ty Lue actually take the Kawhi team to the Western Conference Finals. Well, without Kawhi, but moving on.
Last year, that's old news. Last year. Now, granted, I don't think they're going to win the chip. But if they are blessed enough to be in the NBA Finals, then I can tell you right now, you, my friend, you are going to, that is not going to sit well with you. That's not going to sit well with you. You are not going to like that one bit. If Doc Rivers can get James Harden to ball out on both ends of the court, this team is pretty good.
Yeah.
If he can get Harden to do that, this team is pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty good, but
yeah,
I just have that element of the choke factor. But moving on to the next series.
Are we talking about the choke factor with Harden or the choke factor you perceive as in Doc Rivers?
Both.
Okay.
Going to the next series. Now, in our predictions for the first round, we thought this series was going to go 7 games.
Which one?
The Brooklyn Nets, Boston Celtics.
Oh yeah. My goodness gracious. We thought this was going to be the series of all series. We thought this was going to be one of them historic playoff series, whereas both teams at the end of it are just like, hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. But
isolation basketball at its worst.
Yeah, probably the shock of this year's playoffs. I feel like this is going to be the biggest shock with whatever comes next. The Brooklyn Nets got swept by the Boston Celtics fairly easily.
Easily.
The one game that was there was two games that were pretty competitive. It was the game one that went down to the wire. And then game four, the Nets tried to fight off as hard as they could, like the Nuggets did, but the only difference is they didn't secure the W.
No.
I really do think the Nets losing that first game kind of probably hurt them, because if they had at least taken that game in Boston, who knows what happens in Brooklyn? Maybe they do get a game in Brooklyn. But essentially what happened pretty much was once game one happened, Kyrie Irving was a baller in game one. And then after that, it was already bad enough Kevin Durant couldn't do anything until really game four. When it was,
I mean, damn, they doubled and triple teamed him. Every time he tried to do something that he had, extra hands on him. It was like, sometimes it seemed like one player was an octopus. It was just, he had that many hands. He was very careless with the basketball. He didn't, he really couldn't do what he wanted to do. But at the same time, still the same thing. It's isolation offense. Let this great player do something and let him create something. And, Boston took that away. I saw one play, man. I'm like, it was Patty Mills. And Patty Mills, he passed the ball to Durant. And Durant wanted to isolate the top of the key, but Patty Mills ran towards Durant. And Durant was like, why are you bringing the defense to me, dude? Get out of here. And then the defense did what they were supposed to do. Patty Mills, defender, doubled Durant while Durant was trying to make a move to the basket. So it was just that low IQ basketball that just didn't really work in the playoffs, but it worked in the regular season because you had these great isolation basketball players, and Boston just took that away. Same thing with Bulls and Bucks. It was the same thing. In this case, the Bulls were the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah. Jason Tatum, he showed up again, showing how much of a crazy good player he is. Yep. Now Kevin Durant, he showed up in game four, but it was a little too late. And also the moment you're trotting out Blake Griffin that didn't play like essentially a good chunk of the regular season, that was Steve Nash's whole, okay, I got no more ideas left. Now, Blake Griffin tried the best he could to keep him in the game, in the series, but too little, too late. Done.
I think he wanted to play Ben Simmons. That's what I think he wanted to.
Oh, yeah, I totally forgot that whole factor.
Yeah, that fiasco was just ridiculous.
I don't know what Ben Simmons is going to do. He looks like a guy that's just cashing the check in and coming to work.
Yeah, that's all to me, that's what it looks like. Now, if he is having any type of physical problems, that'll work itself out over the summer. If he is having any type of mental problems, then yeah, the Brooklyn Nets really need to get this gentleman some serious assistance and help, so that not only so that he can pretty much be healthy coming into the next series mentally and physically, because he looks scared. I mean, it's basically what it is. He looks scared. And the only thing I can compare it to was, I don't know if you remember, this is back in the mid 90s, Nick Anderson with the Orlando Magic.
Don't know who
he missed two. He missed two free throws against, I think it was against the Chicago Bulls. I want to say it was against the Chicago Bulls the year we went 72-10. So he missed two specific free throws that could have got them a victory, or it might have been the year before. It might have been the year before in the finals against Houston.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the year before in the finals.
Yeah, the year before the finals against Houston. And those two free throws affected him mentally so much that it pretty much derailed the rest of his career. So these things that happen with Ben Simmons, these things do happen. And I'm not gonna make light of it like you see that some people do on social media. I'm not gonna make light, because I know that playoff failures affect the player long term, and these are the things we don't hear about. So they really need to see if Ben Simmons is having any type of mental difficulty, a mental block to get back on the court, then they need to figure out a way to take care of that. They really do. But the Nets just absolutely suck, just like the Bulls did with their isolation offense and having the player at the top of the key and the defense playing basically a zone defense because they know this guy ain't going to pass. Yeah. So the Nets just looked horrible. They did. And they deserve to go bye-bye because, again, Steve Nash couldn't get these two guys, couldn't get any kind of, resident offense to flow within their system at all.
Yeah. As another team in the offseason that has a lot of moves they have to decide because they got a lot of money tied up. And Kyrie Irving opts out of his deal. The Nets have to question how much money are they willing to resign this dude.
Honestly, can he be trusted with a 4-year contract?
Yeah. I don't think you can trust this guy. I think Kevin Durant made a mistake. If I was Kevin Durant, either there was one or two things he should have did. He should have just heeded Kawhi's advice and just joined him in with the Clippers, or he should just went back to Golden State.
Yeah.
Because Kawhi, it's on record. Kawhi asked him, "Hey, come with me to the Clippers," before he asked Paul George to do that. He was like, "Nah, I'm gonna go play with my boy in Brooklyn." He's looking stupid now because this is the same guy that didn't want to just at least get a shot in his arm. That's the reason why James Harden did, because he was tired of Kyrie's.
Well, they don't want to be coached.
Yeah.
They don't want to be coached. They're already on record saying that we don't need a coach. They're already on record saying. In fact, there are rumors right now that James Harden is actually undermining Doc Rivers because, Doc Rivers is actually coaching him. Now, I know that's probably that's a little, I mean, you'll take solace in something like that. Well, who would want to be coached by Doc Rivers? I get it. But the point that I'm trying to make is that there are certain players who like this isolation style basketball that want to be able to do whatever the heck they want to do and basically, for all intents and purposes, run the offense. And I'm just like, no, you can't trust players to do no stuff like that. So as a coach, don't coach them up. So that, to me, that's what it sounds like. They don't think they need a coach. But see, now Irving and Durant, who don't think they need a coach, guess what they're doing? They sitting at home, and Philadelphia, if James Harden, because now Harden may be alone as the lone superstar on their team. Let's see if, Doc Rivers, if he listens to Doc Rivers. Let's see.
Yeah.
If he don't, they gonna go home too.
Yeah. I also think Brooklyn might need to get younger. I think they got too many old guys on that team, but we'll see where Brooklyn goes. They got a lot of decisions they have to make. So, yeah. Moving on to the second round, we'll stay in the Eastern Conference. The first game that was played today for the Eastern Conference was the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Boston Celtics, and the Milwaukee Bucks actually beat the Celtics in a pretty convincing fashion. Giannis, he did his thing, and the surrounding players, they hit their shots, whether it was Bobby Portis, Connaughton, Drew Holiday was again another. He stepped his play up, like starting from game 3 in that Bulls series. But he played really good. And I think the one thing this game showed me is that one, the Celtics obviously are dealing with a different animal in the Milwaukee Bucks than they are with the Brooklyn Nets, because the difference is the Bucks actually have length at like pretty much every position. So that clearly affected the way how Boston was passing, because Boston turned the ball over quite a lot. And then, with them missing a lot of shots, that length goes into factor in like a Brooklyn Nets that has little to no length, and they don't play really no dang defense at all. So that clearly affected the way how Boston shot the ball. But I still think at the end of the day, Ime Udoka will come up with something to maybe slow Giannis down as best as he can. I got Celtics in probably about actually, yeah, I think the series is going to go more than likely 7. If not, probably Bucks in 6. I did like what the Bucks game plan was. Again, the whole factor is because we already know it's confirmed that Middleton's going to be out. The only factor is if what are they going to do, especially in the next game with the fact that, okay, Boston be more prepared for these guys, especially with no Chris Middleton there. You expect Boston to play much better defense, and they're going to probably hit the shots that they missed today. So it's gonna be very interesting. The one thing I'll say is even if they lose game 2, at least they got a game in Boston. So when they go back to Milwaukee, they still have somewhat of an advantage, unlike Brooklyn, who lost at the last second of game 1 in that game and stuff like that. But this game was pretty much a simple game for Milwaukee. I think Boston will come in game 2 better prepared to play. But I'll actually be pretty shocked if Milwaukee goes up 2-0. I think Boston's going to win game 2, but who knows? Maybe Milwaukee will shock everybody and go up 2-0 going back to Milwaukee, and then you're really talking about Boston being in trouble.
Keep in mind the Bucks got in playoff mode really early. They got in playoff mode really early, whereas the Celtics, I think this game was their indoctrination to playoff basketball. So, because they hadn't lost. So they really, hadn't really had their eyes awoken to what type of basketball they're getting ready to play. Now, I guess I don't know if they exactly expected the Nets type basketball with a lot of isolation, because the Bucks don't do that. The Bucks don't do that. They actually move the basketball around regardless of who's on the floor. And yes, the person that spearheads said offense is Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I chalk this up as, their indoctrination in the playoff basketball. Once you lose a game on the road, it's a series. And right now it's a series right off the bat. Now, moving forward, I still think 7 games. I like the Bucks, believe it or not, to win the series. I was trying my best not to sip that tea of how great the Celtics played, but I weighed that decision based on who they were playing, not necessarily the type of basketball that they were playing. And I mean, the Bucks basically shut down Tatum and Brown. I mean, they basically did, but Tatum and Brown still tried to work the top of the key, and you can't really work the top of the key against the Bucks. You have to be able to move that basketball around and get shots from all 4 areas on the court. So I think the Celtics will regroup in game 2, and it's going to to me, it's just going to be a back and forth to as a game 7. But typically in these type series, the whoever's best player has to have an amazing game to put the other team away. Giannis Antetokounmpo has been there. Jason Tatum has not. So that's why I'm going with the Bucks. In the end, it's going to be for that team's best player to put this team away in a game 7 type scenario. And in that scenario, I pick Giannis. So I always say Bucks and 7.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely could see that. So I want to be shocked if Bucks win, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Celtics somehow pull away to win this series. But
yeah, me too. I wouldn't be shocked either way.
Yeah. Going to the next Eastern Conference series, it is the Miami Heat versus the 76ers. The one twist in this whole series is Joel Embiid. We already know he's got that thumb that needs to be surgically repaired.
Got a thumb and a fractured orbital bone.
Yeah. So it's already confirmed he's going to miss the first 2 games. And my thing is Philadelphia's got to get 1 game in Miami. Otherwise, I'm going to be honest, I feel like this could be over quickly. So obviously, number one thing is James Harden's got to show up. And he didn't really have a really good series against Toronto.
And blamed his team. These guys got to step up while you going 4 for 17.
Yeah.
And now you go 4 for 17 with the best big man in the game. And now you don't have the best big man in the game. And you got the ball now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Though obviously the other role players like Tobias Harris, they gotta probably average above their average. Tyrese Maxey, he's got to play like he played in that game 1 game.
yeah,
And James Harden, he's just got to be the reason why they brought him there, because if he can at least get a game in if he can't get a game in Miami, well then, that sucks. The only thing is Miami, they can just throw a ton of defenders on this dude. You can go from
correct,
Jimmy Butler to PJ Tucker
correct.
to who else am I thinking of that can defend on this team?
I mean, they can defend anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
it could be anyone. Harrell. I mean, Eric Spoelstra has got a slew of guys that he can use to stay in front of James Harden. So that is, I don't expect it to be just one particular person throughout the entire series. I just think it's just going to be a plethora of guys because they're going to run pick and roll. It's just going to be a matter of if Philadelphia can force the right switch so James Harden can be James Harden. But, his way is still isolation, and you cannot beat Philadelphia. You won't be able to beat Miami playing isolation basketball. That's already been proven. They're going to have to move this ball around, and they're also going to have to play some defense too, which obviously has not been up James Harden's alley.
Yeah. Even with Joel Embiid, if he was playing, I'd still am going to take the Heat. I feel like the Heat are just a better team than the 76ers. And even with this whole injury element, if Joel Embiid does come back, one thing, he's going to be more than likely wearing a mask. But still, that finger's still going to be all messed up. And obviously, the Heat players, they're just going to be going at his hands and everything whenever he gets the ball. I got Heat. I got Heat in 6. If anything, I got Heat in 5. That's how confident I'm in this Heat team. They look like they're on a roll, and they look like they're going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think this is it for Philadelphia and their run, especially the fact that Joel Embiid, he lost for 2 games. Even with the finger injury, I was still skeptical. But if, Joel Embiid didn't have his finger injury, then maybe I would have went Philadelphia. But I think this is the end of the road for Philadelphia. I don't have you can't trust, like how we say you can't trust Kyrie Irving when it comes to his personal life and everything. You can't trust James Harden in the playoffs.
Can't trust James Harden either. So, yeah, I believe the same. Embiid is the determining factor in this series. So if Philadelphia can get one of these first 2 games, and if Embiid does happen to come back for game 3 in Philadelphia and he does not get in, there's no lingering effects from either the orbital bone or the thumb, then yeah, Philadelphia can win this series, but they got to get one of these games. They got to get one of these games in Miami. So without Embiid, I'll probably say the Heat in 6, but it really determines on if Embiid can come back 100%. If Embiid can come back 100%, the Sixers can win this series. But he's got to be back 100%. He's got to be back 100%. So, because literally they have nobody that can cover Embiid. Nobody. Bam Adebayo is nice, but they got nobody that can cover Embiid. They can throw some big bodies at him, but they got nobody that can cover Embiid. So Embiid is the determining factor for a Sixers win in this series, but it's also contingent upon the Sixers without him getting games 1 or 2. But currently constructed, the Heat will win this series in 6.
Yeah. Western Conference. We got Suns versus Mavericks. I specified this earlier in the video. I have to watch 2 teams that I freaking hate with a burning passion. I just hate the Suns because last year they had one of the easiest runs to the playoffs or to the finals. And if not for freaking Joe Ingles bumping into Kawhi, we would have taken the Suns and beat them in 6 or 5 games. Whatever. Past history. And the Dallas Mavericks, I just hate the Dallas Mavericks because of the freaking nightmares Luka Doncic gives me every time we play him. Now, regardless, my thoughts on this. Again, it's another whole series that's based on, is this injured player going to come back? I don't think Devin Booker is going to be coming back as the video goes up, it's probably today. Because game 1 will be today in Phoenix. I don't think he'll be back. Maybe game 2 he could potentially come back.
Maybe. But it depends on it. It really depends on if Phoenix can win without him. Phoenix winning, without him, actually progresses him to come back later. Because I can't fathom Phoenix winning and then they're just thrusting Devin Booker back into the rotation. So I can't fathom that. But Phoenix is also in playoff basketball mode too. So, and they have big fish to fry. They got to get back to those finals. So, but Luka is a different animal than what they faced with the Pelicans. So Luka is a different animal. Dallas is a different animal. I know you don't really care for them, but Dallas is a really good basketball team, and really good basketball team. I don't know if Phoenix can beat them without Booker.
Yeah. I'll go Dallas in 6 if Booker doesn't come back. But if he manages to come back, even if it's a 50% but Devin Booker, at least I'll probably go either Phoenix in 6 or 7. I think the one constant thing that Phoenix has to do is they gotta try to slow down Luka Doncic as best they can. But even when you try to slow him down, he'll still find a way to drop 30 or 40 points in a game, which still shocks me how he can do this. But that goes to show you how great of a player he is.
Yeah.
And the last thing you need him is, and this is when I get PTSD moment, when he hits a big shot and then he starts talking crap to the crowd. That's when I get the PTSD kicking in. And I'm in the twilight zone, because when he did that many times against the Clippers, it not only pissed me off, it gave me just like, oh crap, this guy's taking over and we can't do not a dang thing to stop him. So yeah, that's gonna be the thing going on, and stuff like that. And thank goodness we're talking about the last series before our timer runs out. So the last series is the Memphis Grizzlies versus the Golden State Warriors, which is a rematch of the 2015 semifinals game all those years back, as well as a rematch of the play-in game from about, I think, a year ago. And in game 1, the Golden State Warriors literally escaped by the skin of their teeth. If not for Klay Thompson missing 2 free throws, they probably would have won the game easily. It's fine. But Klay Thompson at the end of the game missed 2 clutch free throws, and you would
85% free throw shooter too.
You would think he's the last guy to miss free throws.
But I wouldn't have thought he would have been the last, but he was. Yeah, that was pretty shocking to watch him brick 2 free throws.
Yeah. Now, obviously, the number one thing about everybody's bringing up this game is the ejection on Draymond Green. Did he like tug on the jersey or something and just pull him down?
He tugged on the jersey, but it didn't look to me that he tugged on the jersey with the intent to pull him down.
Yeah.
So you know what, the officiating, yeah, they kind of put their fingerprints in this game. There was a situation in which Dillon Brooks had 5 fouls and Curry had 4 fouls. So Dillon Brooks took a charge on Curry. And it was clear to me that he was sliding to his left. Now, granted, his left foot was planted, but he was sliding his body to the left. And he didn't remain in full verticality. And I thought it was clear. So all 3 referees are at the scorer's table, and you can have one referee, he got his mouth closed, and I'm pretty sure this is what my conspiracy theory is. Hey, you all are aware that if we call this on Dillon Brooks, it's his 6th foul, and he's gonna be gone. And the Warriors just gonna run away with this game. That's what I thought he was saying, just like this. And lo and behold, they, because the Warriors challenged the call. And it was a big call for me, and guess what? They said that the challenge was unsubstantiated, and Curry got his 5th foul. and Dylan Brooks remained in the game. So I'm just like, you know what? That was just one of them weird like calls for me that I'm just like, okay, it's obvious for me that it was a charge, not a block. So I mean, it's obvious to me that it was a blocking foul, not a charge. So that was pretty weird for me. But to go ahead and close it out, man, Ja Morant. I've already talked about Ja Morant. But Steph Curry. My goodness gracious. He was just like, okay, Ja, you good, but you ain't me yet. You ain't me yet. Steph, I mean, they sent him to his left on many occasions to see if he can actually do something. And it was Steph who came up with the defensive play. I think it was 2 good defensive plays while defending Ja. So, but the Warriors are the Warriors. Now, this is going to be a slobber knockover series, but I think the Warriors in the end is going to proceed to the Western Conference Finals. Obviously, 7 games. I mean, obviously 7 games.
I think it's going to go 6 games. I would be shocked if it. Well, no, I'm not going to say it's going to go 5 games. Obviously, the one factor is the Draymond Green factor. He was out for pretty much a little portion of the first half and then the entire second half. And I think that's clearly a big loss. But the fact that
I didn't think it was a flagrant. I didn't think it was a flagrant.
I didn't think it was
not a flagrant too.
Yeah.
I didn't think
no. Obviously, the thing is that I saw this game that I took away from this game that further shows me that, Golden State should win this series is they still won, even if just barely, without Draymond Green.
Correct. And in a sense, they won the game. Now, granted, Clay hit a big 3 down the stretch. They won the game without really superb effort. I shouldn't say effort. Superb game by Klay Thompson. And now Curry also hit some big shots and played some really good defense. But, offensively, it was Jordan Poole was the one they couldn't really stop. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was hitting shots from everywhere. It didn't really matter. They couldn't cover him because they're paying so much attention to Curry and Thompson. So, I mean, that just tells me just how good the Golden State Warriors is. When you try to take away one guy, we got another one right over here. And in this case, they, took away, 2 guys, and the referees took away another guy. So, but at the same time, though, it still just wasn't enough. So I'm pretty sure the Grizzlies will take a little consolation in the fact that, hey, we lost the last series. We lost the first game of the last series, but we wound up winning the series. But Golden State is not Minnesota.
Yeah, they won't make as many mistakes as Minnesota does. And they're a veteran team. And especially with the fact that Draymond Green was out, Draymond Green could have helped eased up the whole load in terms of the passing department and running the offense for Golden State. And I think even in game 2, Draymond Green's going to be like, okay, you ejected me. He's going to probably come back and try to prove himself.
Correct.
And say, you think you just barely beat us. I would not be shocked if Golden State somehow gets a 2-0 lead. I would not be shocked.
Correct. Going back home. And I will say this. If Golden State is up 26 on you, I can't fathom any scenario that Memphis comes back. They're not Minnesota, and they better be ready to ball out. Because if Golden State, with those guys on that roster, if they're up 25, I can't see them succumbing to, saying, okay, hey, we're just going to go pack it in like Minnesota did.
Yeah. It's it's definitely a must-win game 2 for Memphis. Now, the Oracle or the Chase City Center crowd isn't like the Oracle crowd, but it still can get pretty loud up in that building. I don't think Memphis wants to play with fire by that. And then, like I said, this is the same Memphis team that beat Golden State in that playing game. So Golden State has a vendetta of getting back at these guys. Seems like it's gonna be a very interesting series. I got Golden State in 6 personally. So that's just me. But anyways, since the timer is about to freaking almost clock us out, we're gonna get out of here. If you guys liked the video, please leave a like. Put in the comment section your thoughts on the predictions and our thoughts on the first round series, as well as hit that subscribe button if you want to get more Camp for 15.
Oh, real quick. We did mention this, and I know we are under limited time. Based on what you've seen so far, who do you think will be in the finals? Based on what you've seen so far.
Golden State for the Western Conference, and then right now, if it was before, right now probably Boston still.
Okay, I like Warriors too, but the Bucks. I'll go with the Bucks. Bucks and Warriors right now. Right now. So.
Yeah. I can see that too. But anyways, hit the subscribe button for more Camp for 15 talk sports content, talk MLB, NFL, and NBA content on the channel. But other than that, guys.
Hey, Angels are in first place.
Yes, I know. I'm happy. We almost blew a freaking lead to the freaking Chicago White Sox.
They're gonna win that division by default. Stop.
We'll see. Anyways, we're gonna get out of here, guys. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night watching this video. Until then, guys, peace.
Later.